What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, getting down with Fresh Out. You know how we do it over here. Hit that like, subscribe. Man, I got my man Hector Bravo back again. It's been a minute, and he's been burning up the internet, man, with his content, and they've been on his ass. Hey, Hector, man, what's up, bro?
What up, dude? Good meeting up with you again, man.
Man, it's been a minute, man, and I know you have a lot going on. I've been watching your content, and you've been exposing a lot of shit, so let's get right into it, man. California and the CDC, bro.
Almost about 3 years now.
Yeah.
I met up with you fairly on in this journey.
Yeah.
Fairly on, man, when I thought I was actually going to make a difference by exposing the truth to the public. And that journey hasn't necessarily taken that form, man. But I have faced retaliation from the California Department of Corrections through search warrants.
Wow.
Electronic search warrants.
Damn.
From a lot of counties, dude. Monterey County, San Diego County, San Bernardino County, Los Angeles County. These are where all these prisons are originating.
And you would think that by you exposing the system, it would shed light on cleaning up the system. They don't want it cleaned up.
Nazi Germany, bro. The Gestapo. I view them as a German Gestapo.
So it sounds like to me like what you've been uncovering, and then based on the content I've seen, it's almost like this shit is being around like an organized crime family.
We talked about earlier. Yeah, the mafia.
Yeah.
As corrupt as the mafia, but even worse because they have sworn in to do the right thing under oath.
Public officials.
Hey, at least the mafia understand that they're criminals.
Yeah.
And they ain't really trying to hide the fact that they're criminals. This is organized crime posed as law enforcement.
You know what blows me away though with these guys, the way they're doing it, is that like the mafia, you know, they're not supposed to rap, but they had a lot of guys that have been telling on their side, they're all standing by. They're like they're all in on it. They're not like these guys, whatever oath they took, bro, they're going to the grave with this thing because they're all all eating off of it.
They're quadrupling down.
Yeah.
And that's one of their major problems, which I estimated, right? Now they're doing it in the public light though. It's one thing to do your dirt. It's kind of like beating your wife behind closed doors. Now they're straight beating their wife in the middle of the street with everybody watching.
Damn.
So I'm glad I brought that out to the public. That's how grimy they are.
Now, with that being said, like, you know, whenever we see like a public official, like one of these people, like they're gonna say, okay, this guy is being exposed for maybe the homeless fraud, or we're gonna get Gavin Newsom's personal. That's just like to make you think like they're doing something.
Yeah. Once in a while they'll get lucky, right? Or it's all. I mean, from what I've gathered, what's really stopping the FBI from looking into the California Department of Corrections when I have documented facts of 96 negligent homicides, right? I can look in the camera and be like, hey, FBI, where are you at? What are you doing? And this is just kind of the reality of the system.
And as far as like the people working in the system and how it's almost by design, they created this more hostile, violent environment. And then when it gets to a point, then they can say, see, that's why we need to do this now. And it's like they create the problem and then already have a pre-planned solution.
Speaking of that, I know for a fact before the internet, right? Because the internet gave average people like us access to be able to communicate, network, and see things. I believe they were creating our government, right? I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means. I believe our government was creating problems and allegedly fixing them from the start, from the inception of country. But now we're catching on like, hey, dude, you created this mess. Yeah. Now you're pretending to clean up this mess. That's definitely a thing.
So you think now, because they have like all these independent reporters, like social media people like ourselves or different media outlets, it's harder for them to cover up their tracks because of just the different, it's like a bunch of crack. You keep putting Band-Aids and trying to cover up all the leaks.
We, the people, the average civilian, have gotten ahead of government when it comes to information. That's a fact. That's just through my observation, and that's a fact. So much so that I could see Gavin Newsom now doing his podcast. Why would Gavin Newsom do a podcast, right? Yeah. Because he came to the realization, damn, this is it now. This is the present time. People are no longer buying the mainstream media, the news. They did that upon themselves. I guarantee you ask anybody on the streets, do you believe the mainstream media news? They're going to tell you no, because we've caught on to their sick lies.
Now, the California Department of Corrections, and as far as like just the the old guard, because you were in the system right when you seen everything with the SNY yards, all the stuff changing. What was their whole plan with that as far as now in retrospect that you've been out and you're seeing what's going on?
Perfect. Yeah, you're right. I started in 2006 when it was the end of the good old days, as we call it,
Yeah.
and then all the way to 2022 when it became the Wild West Circus. So you got to understand, a lot of things contributed to this chaos, right? Up into including lawsuits from inmates, right? Inmates filed lawsuits, which kind of forces the department's hand to make a move, right? Once the federal government steps in and once judges step in, you are now court ordered to make a move. Now, that's not to say that CDCR is not vindictive. Let's talk about how in 2014, the Asker settlement, which was when all the prison gang leaders, the Mexican Mafia, the Nuestra Familia, the Black Guerrilla Family, and the Aryan Brotherhood, all those individuals that were in the security housing unit, the SHU, in Pelican Bay and Corcoran, for 30 years, they were court ordered to be released. Now, part of the agreement on behalf of the inmate population was, hey, we will do an end of all hostilities peace treaty. We will no longer have these race riots. We will get along, quote unquote, and let us out. I'll be honest with you, bro. They kept their end of the bargain. They did keep their end of the bargain, because I had been involved in numerous race riots up until that point, and then it just came to a grinding halt. Like, that's non-existent now. And as a matter of fact, the Nuestra Familia and the Mexican Mafia have aligned to a degree. So now you have Northerners and Southerners programming that is powerful.
Yeah.
Right? That had never in the history. You have 50 years of a war seized. What did CDCR do? Hey, you guys want to play games? Cool. I'm gonna mix you with child molesters and show us how much you can get along now. Which is why you're seeing the extent of homicides. To me, that's unethical.
Wow. So we're gonna play, since you guys are gonna play this game, we're gonna flip it and see now how we're gonna make you go against certain policies, because you can't have that guy in your yard. You can't even be on the same yard with that person, or else.
So you're right. If the inmates agreed to stop fighting, which they did. Now, was there murders happening? Yeah, regular prison shit.
Yeah.
Regular prison shit was happening, right? You got to clean house, you got to do your thing. But CDCR realized, fuck, the major violence has halted. Let's kick the dust back up.
Wow.
But at the expense of the correctional officers and the inmates. Here's why. Because if you're a civilian watching TV or watching this YouTube and people say, who gives a fuck? They're just inmates. Let them kill each other. Well, number one, no, because that violates a policy and violates your oath, and you have a job. But also, it was just a matter of time before the inmates turned their aggression and their violence on the correctional officers. Dude, you're having almost an attempted murder on a CO once a week.
Damn.
In the California Department of Correction.
Wow.
And they're getting blasted, bro. Blasted. Boom. Boom. There was a dude in CSP Sac New Folsom last month in October. He got stabbed in the femoral artery in the leg.
Damn.
Now, you didn't hear about this shit on the news to the degree that I'm telling you. Luckily, the dude was a former EMT, the officer. He was able to put on his own tourniquet. Thank God he was carrying his own tourniquet, and he was able to stop the bleeding. However, he was in the ICU for like a week or two. It's bad in there, dude.
And this is stuff they're not reporting because they don't want the public to know the extent of it.
Facts. And then that's where I come in. Because CDCR will push the propaganda on their website. Hey, look, we're having a BMX show on the yard. Look, all these inmates are graduating college. Look, we have a captain getting his face painted by an inmate. But what they're not showing is the bloody murders that are happening in reality.
I fully understand that, because I've seen where when a particular warden shows up to a institution and it seems like everything's just operating too good, and they're like, man, what the hell is this? This isn't. We want this shit to be prison. We need to justify our funding. We need to have, there's got to be some type of, there can't be kumbaya in the yard. Create something, and they'll bring in certain people they know will offset the balance of power.
Not only that, I mean, we were talking about it, like how can we'll get into how the government feeds off of that system. I've interviewed numerous former lifer inmates, and I will pick their brain about how their arrest and sentencing process went, it's all like a wobbler, like variable, man. And it all seems to be designed to feed the system.
And what do you mean by that?
Like inconsistencies, right? Inconsistencies like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna hit you with the gun enhancement. I'm gonna hit you with a gang enhancement. I'm gonna hit you. And the way they were telling me, right, because I have a horrible memory, but the way it was the math was not adding up. It almost seemed like the DA was just trying to just bury an individual.
Basically squeeze you into a plea agreement.
100%. Or just bury you, or just fill up the prisons.
Well, I had just watched something, and a gentleman was on Club Shay Shay, and he was talking about some of the private prisons are suing the states now because they're not at capacity.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he was saying that there is a lawsuit. I can't recall what state, but the private prisons were suing because they said the states, you promised us when we got these contracts, we would be at over 50%.
Wow.
And our stock, in order to justify, that's what that whole 4 o'clock count is. That 4 o'clock count is the cattle count. We need to be at X amount to keep our stock. Otherwise, the stock goes down because your prisons are operating below capacity.
You're losing money.
Losing money. Because they have to remember, if there's only 50, you're not getting all the meal allocations.
Incentives.
Your contracts are short because the labor is not there.
The federal kickbacks.
Federal kickbacks. See, all that shit is a part of this thing. So when you look at and we talked about it off camera about how consciously you need to have people doing a certain behavior in order to justify other means. And if enough people aren't committing crimes, then we can't justify all these other, per se, private facilities to house these people. We'd have to have more colleges and educational programs, which doesn't add up for what we're trying to do, because that's control.
And we, being in former law enforcement, we've always referred to it as a pendulum, right? They would always say, don't worry, youngster, the pendulum's going to swing back. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, I joined in 2006, the pendulum never came back. The pendulum fell off into the Pacific Ocean, man. That's the truth.
Yeah.
But we have the beauty of hindsight and the beauty of observation, right? We're not narrow-minded. This didn't happen overnight.
No.
None of this happened overnight. We can go all the way to the 3 strike laws in the early 90s. We can talk about all those enhancements. AB 109, Prop 57, then DA Gascon in Los Angeles. So it's definitely politicians and powerful rich people playing with human lives.
Now you just said the AB law and then the 3 strikes. Now you got guys who I was just talking with a guy before you came that we interviewed who did 35 years for stealing a Hello Kitty phone, right? Hello Kitty phone because that was the 3rd strike, and now this guy took programs, but he still had to do all this time. But they're letting, and we see it on camera once a week, dudes are running 10, 15 man crews, running up in broad daylight in the malls.
100%.
And you're just filming back when I was young. But by the time you came out, there was a SWAT team out there.
100%.
Dude, the call time, there was so. You guys got these guys locked up in here, these old guys now for bullshit.
Yeah.
And then you letting all these guys get away. So what do you see that big plan?
And I don't agree with that either. And in this, even being a former correctional lieutenant, right? What I've seen in prison from my experience is the inmates that behave and listen, they get the shit end of the stick. The assholes that are out of control, break windows, smear shit on themselves, make a scene, they get rewarded with everything. So it's an ass backwards system. They reward bad behavior. And I've always said that, and they know it too. It's just I don't understand the logic behind that.
Yeah, it doesn't add up to me either, because I've seen, numerous situations, and we can go and just look on social media, but where, I just seen a guy, he had 49 arrests and damn near 40-something violent crimes. He got out again and lit a lady on fire on a public transit.
I was just about to say, probably killed somebody.
He killed somebody, burn bitch. You know what I mean? But I every time I got in trouble, I did time. I wasn't you know what I mean? So what is he said, you guys got these other people who have been programming.
Correct.
Who, like you said, should be doing the right thing, but the guy who rubs shit on himself, or the guy who stabbed the officer or stabbed the inmate, then he comes out and you let him out and he's out there terrorizing.
I'm about to give you a perfect example for the perfect scenario. The Menendez brothers, right? No, I don't have infatuation with them. It's just simply observations and facts. I worked at the prison that they worked at, that they lived there. Why do you think they were able to get Gascon to do the retrial, introduce new evidence, have it up to go to, because they have money, right? They have money and they're associated with certain people. Kardashians, Rosie O'Donnell, they're associated with people. But the state, to include Associate Warden May, Captain Rutledge, all of these people that I worked with, right? What I speak from experience. They were making those guys' write-ups disappear. Hit the delete button. Gone. They would be found in possession of cell phones, and they would just make the write-up disappear. And or tell the lieutenant, dismiss it. Right? So anyways, the point I'm getting at too is like, what powers above, powers that be, were so eager to get these Menendez brothers out of prison, when I know LWOP, life without parole inmate, actually I know two of them, one Mexican and one black dude, that I knew from both prisons that I worked at. Those guys program way more than the Menendez brothers, but who had a shot and who didn't. You know what I mean? That's what I see. It's like money, power, and inconsistencies is what it is.
So why do you think that they didn't let him out? Was that just a test the waters, or seeing what the public sentiment was, or?
I honestly thought they were going to get out. I, in my heart, felt that they were going to get out.
Yeah.
You don't know this, but the DA from LA called me. They were watching my YouTube videos. They were like, "Hey man, you used to work with these guys? Yeah. Like, do you have evidence of like their write-ups?" I'm like, I do. Can you email it? They emailed it over. What they wanted to get more, but the staff members didn't want to provide me with, and understandably, with more stuff. But I definitely had some stuff. And when they did their hearing, their parole hearing, they brought that up, which surprised me. It surprised me because they actually did the right thing. You know, the DA and the BPH, Board of Prison hearings, parole hearings. And they kept telling them, like, hey, you guys have been caught with numerous cell phones throughout your entire incarceration. You still have that mentality. And people from back home, regular civilians might think, who cares, Hector? They're just cell phones. No, you're missing the whole point. The whole point is they are being manipulative and still violating rules, pretending that they're not. That's a mindset. That is a horrible mindset.
So looking at that, and then looking at California, how since me and you talked last, the crime on the street has just went out of control. It's out of control. It's next level, man. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, I'm seeing weekly stuff out here where guys are hauling safes out of people's houses in broad daylight, man, and people just filming. No, there's no cops. I mean, I don't know how long it takes for the cops. I mean, it's just crazy, man. So what do you see? Like, what is California's big plan? And then you see, like you said, Newsom talking about, I used to hustle.
These were chess moves, bro. These were not checker moves. And you said the police kind of not showing up. In California, and probably in the United States, they have broke the spirits and the morale of law enforcement officers. They have fired good officers. That's a fact. I've seen good officers get fired for being well within the policy, but just going against the grain, going against the agenda. So that'll discourage an officer from doing their job, right? Why? Why am I going to get fired for arresting this guy, right? Why am I going to attempt to get in a shootout with this guy when they're going to fire me, to send me in prison and burn down the city? So it was an accumulation of all of this, giving the criminals free game and holding the cops accountable. Not holding the cops accountable, because I know what people are going to say. Hector, yeah, they were abusing people and taking advantage of their badge, but that wasn't like, I don't believe that was a plaguing problem. I believe those were isolated incidents.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? The last Batman movie, where you had like the city council people and like the Kingpin, remember the Penguin, like meeting with like these politicians and a commissioner, almost like we had the good commissioner, but everybody else was corrupt.
Right.
And it's almost like they went to in bed with like some of the criminal elements to actually create this situation. So when they come up with the next thing, whether it's plan and terror or some type of mass surveillance thing, everybody's gonna be like, about time. They're gonna welcome in whatever new phase of surveillance or whatever.
Like
and
FEMA.
law enforcement. Yeah, and people are just going to be cool with it because they created that. You know what I mean? And people are like, you know, on another note, like, you know, well, you know, Senator, we don't want the police here. We don't want, you know, the troops here. But like, at what point is safety for the public more important than the rights of people committing the crimes?
I mean, all we have to do is look back in history, right? Rome. Because I don't believe there's anything new under the sun. Everything has already happened at least one time, I think. So just look at how Rome fell, how other civilizations fell. But one thing I have learned, dude, from being on the internet for 3 years, because I pretty much mastered my environment of prison, right? I learned how people tick. My emotional intelligence is extremely high. I know what moves people. I know how to read people. But being on the internet, I've also gained a perspective of people. 99% of people won't do the right thing when they fear they will be retaliated against. So that's also to take something into consideration. I've been on the internet for 3 years, pretty much doing the correctional officers' jobs, because why should I do it, right? I quit. You have to live, you have to work there. I don't. But the department has scared them so much through intimidation, threats, search warrants, terminations, that they would rather not talk to me and give me information or even talk to me. They would rather get stabbed and killed and fired and just had their way with. That's a fact, dude. That's a fact. I'm telling you, that's the truth. They've kind of like turned their back on me to a degree. I'm kind of like the mistress, bro, where they'll kind of just like, hey, what up, man? Even though I'm doing the solid right thing.
Now, how far up do you think the corruption goes? I mean, as far as like, they'll go all the way up to, you think the governor, or does it stop the city officials? I mean, because CDC
higher
is
than
big.
Newsom.
Huh?
Higher than Newsom.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, George Soros.
Yeah.
Higher than Newsom.
Yeah. But he's complicit. You would think.
100%. They just arrested his freaking lady.
His aide.
They just arrested his aide. And what is she? She's just a fall guy, girl.
Yeah.
She's not, these puppets, and I call them puppets, bro. That's one of the beauty things. That's one of, like Machiavelli the Prince. Have you read that book?
Yeah.
That's one of the beautiful things about philosophy and me working inside a prison. I saw the hierarchy. I saw what happens when you give people power. How they fucking, in their head, they think they're a somebody. In their head, they think they're untouchable. That's the golden rule. Nobody's untouchable.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody is untouchable. So I've seen how, okay, if I'm a warden, right, and I've seen this. I've seen wardens surround themselves with the biggest fucking dummies. And it's kind of funny that I'm saying that because I was the public information officer for that warden.
Yeah.
So it was like I was his right-hand man, but I don't know if that fool had bumped his head, thought that I was something I wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't know what. But they surround themselves with yes men. They surround themselves, it's like the emperor has no clothes.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to that lady that got indicted on federal crimes, Governor Newsom just put a dummy in that spot to do his dirty work.
Yeah.
Governor Newsom put Secretary Jeff McCumber as the CDCR secretary to be the dummy to carry out the... There are major lawsuits coming to hit the department real soon that they have no idea what they're about to be hit with. And guess who's going to be holding that hot potato? What is Jeff McCumber? What is the secretary going to say? The governor told me to do this?
Yeah.
How's that going to go?
So he put these buffers in between them. It's almost like the California, like when you look at like how they brought in Gascon after he destroyed Frisco. They brought him in L.A., but then you got Mayor Bass here. But quote unquote, they put, and some people ain't gonna like, but they put a black woman there, so she's kind of like a blocker because you can't say nothing against her because she's kind of untouchable. But then all the stuff falls, and it's like, who do you blame? You know, for the crime, for the fires, for the homeless.
Even the lesbian firefighting captain.
Yeah.
From LA.
Yeah, that was another fall guy.
They were trying to make her the fall girl, and she turned around and told on Bass, and guess what happened?
Fire.
Your ass is gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's Game of Thrones, man.
Yeah. And you know what time clock they're on, right?
What's that?
The Olympics. See, they got a lot of moves to make for the Olympics.
You're right. So you see, sometimes you see some people see things that we don't see.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't even thought about
the Olympics,
that.
bro.
Right.
So he's pulling these moves. That's why you said the podcast, you know, getting on there with Matt Barnes in there. Yeah, I was hustling too. I was eating mac and cheese and, you know, sleeping on the couch. I'm like,
Newsom said that?
dude, you didn't hear it?
No, but
his dad was a judge that worked with the Getty family, but he was hustling. He said he was bouncing. He used to hit the basketball off the side of the wall, the wall, and he was hustling to talk like he's talking like he thinks he's talking black.
So by you telling me what Newsom said, I was able to read that bullshit through Newsom. That's how high my emotional intelligence. By using words like that, I was hustling on the couch. I was eating mac and cheese. I was playing fucking hoops. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean.
Shut the fuck up. Like, dude, you're not fooling anybody.
But who buys that? Do people still buy that?
I don't think.
Do you think people are that stupid?
No. I don't think people buy it per se. Again, 5 minutes ago, I just told you 99% of the people will not do the right thing for fear of repercussion.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that they're buying it. It's that they don't have the nuts, the spine, or the backbone to do something about it. I've only met 1% of solid motherfuckers in my whole entire life, bro. That means in war, in prison, and what I do now on social media.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers that do the right thing, mean the right thing, and will go to bat for you all the way. That's what America lacks.
Yeah.
That is the America that I grew up in the early 1990s.
Yeah.
That got watered down around 2012 and all the weird shit started coming in. Yeah. Those motherfucking powerful people I don't blame them, but they capitalized.